ISIS, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban. These are some of the most infamous and dangerous terrorist groups known throughout modern history. Terrorists are known to arouse fear in people and to have an alarming amount of power. This is common knowledge. However, not many people know how exactly they are capable of instilling such widespread impacts. As a terrorist group starts to become more and more well known, one can start to see the methods they use to forward their views and gain power. Terrorists use manipulation to their advantage. In this video, we will examine 3 ways that terrorists use manipulation to forward their message and gain power. Children, religion, and the media. One way that terrorists use manipulation to their advantage is with children. As the terrorist group ISIS started to gain power, they changed the school systems and forced the children of Syria to attend their schools. They also forced teachers to teach their ways, and they forced parents to send their kids to these schools. They were told that if they did not comply, they would be killed. A man named Abu Shahad first realized his 11-year-old was being brainwashed by ISIS when he saw the 4th graders' textbooks. They were filled with images of bombs, guns, machine guns, tanks, warplanes, and other war symbols. A copy of one math textbook showed images of guns, bullets, and tanks in explaining basic arithmetic. An ISIS English language workbook used the positioning of military vehicles to teach the use of prepositions, and illustrations of bombs to how to read time. Instead of subjects such as history and geography, students were taught religious extremism and violence. A math textbook, for example, asked students in one exercise to calculate the number of unbelievers who could be killed by a car bomber. Another referenced how many explosives a factory could produce. All plus signs were removed because they resemble the Christian cross. All of this would become advantageous for ISIS because the minds of children can be easily shaped and manipulated. Teaching them in this way could guarantee them future followers. As they were beginning to lose power over their land, more followers could help regain that power. And it was working. Abu Shahid said that his son changed a lot at school and became very pro-ISIS. Also, students became increasingly aggressive and full of hatred. Children who have been brought up on ISIS curriculum have been desensitized to violence and exposed to a destructive ideology. Clearly, these schools were an effective way of manipulating children to become followers of ISIS, consequently becoming weapons of terrorism. Terrorists manipulate people with religion. A popular belief is that terrorists are crazy, or brainwashed, or uneducated, but this fact is just not true. Typically, terrorists have above-average education and have better economic situations than the general population. There is also no evidence that points to terrorists being psychopaths, suicidal, or even depressed. Another myth about terrorists is that they are motivated by their religious views. While it is obvious that religion is a common theme among terrorists, religion is not the root cause of conflicts, but is rather a tool used by terrorists to achieve their goals. Terrorists translate their political views into religious ones. This can be very advantageous for terrorists as it motivates others to sacrifice themselves for a good cause. It gives their followers moral legitimacy. Another way terrorists use religion to their advantage is their idea of seeking out non-religious people. When considering the terrorist group ISIS, we can examine the advantages that this strategy gave them. ISIS looks to manipulate those who are vulnerable and searching for meaning in their lives. Those who don't know much about Islam can be easier to indoctrinate and less likely to push back when they're told. So people who are not religious are good targets for terrorist groups because they are less attached to a previous religious belief and are more easily swayed. Another way terrorists use religion to their advantage is by using positive reinforcement that is tied to religious teachings. To elaborate on this idea, they tell their followers the rewards that they could receive if they obey. They use the religious idea that if they do what they're told, that they will receive a paradise. Terrorists focus more on how their positive traits could get them into heaven, rather than the negative traits that could get them into hell. This is advantageous because if a reward is involved, it is more likely that people will do what they are told. A final way that religion is an effective tool is that it can unify a terrorist group. Generally, the role that religion plays in most terrorist groups is that it incorporates many emotionally evocative and highly memorable symbols, myths, and rituals. Participating in these things can make obeying feel more meaningful and demonstrate levels of commitment. This is advantageous because it can help keep a terrorist group alive. It encourages cooperation and devotion to the group. So when considering all of these aspects and the role of religion in terrorism, it is evident that it is an extremely powerful tool of manipulation. Terrorists manipulate people through the media. As already mentioned, it is a very popular belief that religion and terror are strongly associated. Terrorists, especially suicide bombers, are often depicted in the media as delusional religious fundamentalists, hopelessly brainwashed and out of touch with reality. And the media is responsible for this belief. The media is another tool that terrorists use to manipulate people. A goal of most terrorists is to instill fear in the public. The media effectively spreads the news and messages of terrorists on a global scale. The modern technologies have made it possible for small terrorist groups to use the mass media as a powerful gun. There are multiple reasons why a terrorist group might want to gain popularity on the media. For one thing, they want to spread their message very quickly. One popular goal is to forward a different kind of warfare on the public, psychological war. As one of the leaders of the United Red Army once explained, violent actions are shocking. We want to shock people everywhere. It is our way of communicating with the people. These themes may include execution videos, gory battle footage, drone strikes, and suicide bombs. At the same time, when terrorists show themselves in the media, they also show themselves being portrayed in a positive light. Graphic images of enemy soldiers' heads and mutilated bodies are broken up with softer releases showing children being rewarded for memorizing the Quran, award ceremonies, and jihadis giving out food and money to civilians. Gaining popularity on the media can have multiple advantages for terrorist groups. First of all, it effectively spreads whatever message they want to communicate to the public. It can help to make political change. It helps to gain followers on an international scale. It helps to raise money and inspire future attacks. It helps to stay relevant. When terrorist groups use the media, enough brainwashing and threatening can result in an unimaginable amount of power. After examining all of this information, it is clear that terrorists aren't delusional. They are actually very clever. It can be said that terrorists have effectively used manipulation to their advantage in the past. First of all, they used manipulation on children. This was shown in the schools that ISIS controlled. The children were very easily swayed. Second of all, they used religion as a means of manipulation. This was shown in the way they recruited members. People seemed to be more open to obeying if there was a good reason to. Finally, terrorists use manipulation through the media. This was shown in how effective the media can send a message and how easily it can be to gain publicity. As we learn more about terrorists and continue to understand how they function, it can become easier to withstand their threats and inhibit their attacks. Maybe there will even be a time when terrorism will no longer be a problem anymore. Thank you for watching.